What is going on, dudes? Welcome to another Tippler's Parlor. Been a while since I've done one, so I figured we'd get one taken care of. Got a few good things on the lineup for today, actually. I know, like I said, I know it's been a while. Last episode, we did it was like a benchmarking on RAM modules. Is a lower size RAM module is more lower size RAM modules better than less higher size RAM modules that all equal the same. So today we've got another benchmarking that we're going to go over. First things first, we always do a beer. I'm going to skip the beer this time. I'm not really drinking too much anymore, and so I don't have anything good new to recommend. I will say this, though. Weather is starting to get warmer. Summer is approaching. Sours are good. Sours are always good in spring, summertime. Lighter, good flavors. You can find a lot of good ones. I like personally pale ales, IPAs. I like those. If you don't like the hoppiness of an IPA, you can go more of with a pale ale, just any sort of ale. Stuff I typically will stay away from when it's 100 degrees outside. As summer's approaching, we're not quite there, but would be the heavier, heavier stouts and porters would be not the best. If you're outside and you're just sweating, and you don't want that. You want something cool, refreshing, something that doesn't just sit in your mouth and feel like the heat is gonna make something spoil in your mouth right away. I don't even know how to explain it. Sometimes they're not too bad, if you're like out to dinner or whatever. But like if you're outside working, you're at the beach, you're doing whatever, pale ales are definitely the way to go. So we'll start there, and then we always like to do a deal of the weeks next. So I've got I don't even know 5 different things. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool what I've got lined up. So just a few different things. If you're interested, we'll throw them out there. I'll link everything in the description below, and you can go back and see them all as well. I'll link articles that we go over today too. No beers, but just the rest of this stuff. So first, let's jump into the first deal of the week. We've got, if you're into it, it's 3D printable Dungeons and Dragons like figurines. I don't know if you're into that. I've not played D&D yet. Thinking about wanting to do it, maybe start some sort of campaign, dive into it. I've always kind of been into it, and I'm like reading more and more on how they work and how many people you need to have and what makes it fun and blah 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 blah. Also, none of my friends or a group of us that would play live nearby, so we'd have to do something remotely over the internet or whatever. Either way. But this is for this could be good if you're doing stuff like this, with people, physically with people, and you're a dungeon master and you're into some stuff like this, or game master in general. Don't have to be a D&D dungeon master. But yeah, you get these figurine sets. So for $1 more, you get all of these. So it's pretty cool. You could set up a lot of cool things with that. $8 or more, you can get a bunch more stuff. And I mean, there's trees, the windmills. I mean, there's just a ton of things here. Not bad options if you're looking for stuff that's really somewhat cheap. Look at a pumpkin golem, that's pretty cool, and that's in the $15 tier plus all of this. And again, this is a humble bundle. So how the humble bundle works is you pay what you want, you choose what you pay. There's 13 days left on this one, but so if you pay $1 more, you get all of these. If you pay $8 more, you get all of these plus the tier below it. If you pay $15 or more, you get all of these in this tier plus the $8 one plus the $1 one. So, your best bet is just to pick which tiers you're wanting to get and then pay at least that amount. And that's what then you can get whatever. So the next one we're going to go to is a Stardock strategy bundle. This looks pretty cool. I've not actually looked through most of these. The figurines are pretty the 3D figurines are pretty straightforward. No real explaining here, but this is going to be a collection of games, strategy games, and obviously you pay whichever tiers you want. So within the $1 tier, you can get the Sorcerer King Rivals or Dead Man's Draw. I've not played any of these, but it's, a strategy game is somewhat similar to our first, D&D 3D printable figurines. So that's why I kind of went with this one as well. So second tier is pay more than the average, which right now is $10.15, and you'll also then unlock this tier, Galactic Civilization 3, with the that plus the Crusade expansion, plus the Retribution expansion, and the Mega Events DLC. So you can get all of those. Not bad. Then if you go more than $13, which is less than $3 more than the last tier, you then get a lot more options. You get Star Control Origins. You get the Star Control Earth Origins Earth Rising expansion, the original soundtrack, Star Control 1 and 2 and 3, and Galactic Civilization 3. Is it Intrigue expansion? So that'll go with the last tier. You get those expansions, and that's not bad, pretty nice. And then the last one here is Ashes of the Singularity. That actually escalation. So that actually seems pretty cool. I don't know if they're using it the way it's a Steam game. Actually, all of these are Steam games. Is that right? Yes, these all are Steam games. The Ashes of Singularity, that seems really cool to me. Singularity is supposed to be like when robots or AI of some sort take over the world. So this says Ashes of Singularity, so this seems like it's a post-apocalyptic singularity thing. iRobot, stuff like that. There's been a ton of movies like that. So let's move on to the next one. The next one I have is actually pretty cool. So this is software development, and it's obviously it expands your I'll read it. Expand your software development skills and transform your bad code into good code with this newest bundle. So if you're into any sort of software development, this could be very helpful for you. The $1 tier, you have strategy patterns, programming, just 97 things a programmer should know, the art of readable code, algorithms in a nutshell. You get down to the $8 tier, which is the next tier. Then test driving development with Python, introducing learning with Python, becoming a better programmer. Python's a good language to learn. It would be probably one of the more universal languages you could learn. Everything's pretty specific, though. I mean, if you want to do something for a phone, or if you want to do something that's, I don't know, like HTML, like if you're doing websites and stuff like that, things are very specific, but Python's a good one to learn. It's a good language to learn. I think it's relatively easy and more on the universal side of languages, but I'm not a programmer, so I'm not an expert, but that's just from my understanding of what I've read about it. Then you go to the $15 or more, and you have quantum computing, learning core DNS, cloud native, real world software development. So it's just other stuff. So it's pretty good, pretty not bad at all. I guess I should say here. Okay, so the 3D printable printables is when you buy from the Humble Bundle, it supports a charity. They give these things away for whatever you pay, and the money goes straight to charity. So the 3D printable goes to Direct Relief. The Stardock strategy bundle goes to Save the Children and Action Against Hunger. So you can choose, like they have these that go to like these that'll be different like every month or whatever for like every bundle, but you can also go through and select like one of your own charities. So like if you want your money for each bundle that you use to go to a specific charity, it doesn't have to be these, but I'm just showing you what they have listed for each one right now. So now onto the software programming development is Code for America. Next one I have is a pretty cool one. If Alex was doing this, he might be interested in this. He's not here this episode, so we'll have to get him on here. He's got 6 days if he's interested. But this one's music producer, so it's a software bundle for music producing stuff. It seems pretty good actually. So you get a bunch of cool things here if you're into trying to make some music of any sort, and you get a good amount if you pay the full. This one's $20, a little higher I think than the other ones, but you get a good amount of stuff. So you get strum sessions, lounge, lizard sessions, ultra analog sessions, ultra FX, analog essentials, kinetics, journeys. I mean, you just get a bunch. And this one charity is Musicians on Call. That's what it's supporting. Again, unless you select a different one at checkout, I think which you can. And last one might be for me currently. I mean, the software development one might be cool. Strategy games one might be cool as well. But this one might be my favorite. This is 7,000 game dev icons is what they're calling it. So this is to help create your own PC or mobile games, software, applications, websites, and whatever else. This is just a bunch of different icons that you purchase through this. And this one actually goes to responding to COVID-19 and Partners in Health Against Hunger. So we'll go down straight down here. So we've got Partners in Health. We've got Actions Against Hunger and Red Nose Day. Those are what these would go to. Or again, I'm not sure if you can change this one or not. But for $1, you get fantasy weapons, loot box, jewelry, and like each one of these, it's not just even what you see here. This one has like 8 right here. The fantasy weapons has 8, and it's actually a set of 137 hand-drawn icons. So it's not just the 8 that you see on screen. So this one's like 137. This one's 174. So just paying a $1 right here. Each one of these are valued at $10. Each pack is valued at $10. I think through this whole thing. So each bundle has like well over 100. So I mean, if you're getting you're got well over 500, I'd say you're probably 600 or 700 just in this first $1 tier. And then you can move on to this next one. You've got spell books, you've got sci-fi icons, you've got sci-fi skill icons, you've got pirate icons, you've got witchcraft, you've got fruit and vegetables, you've got trading icons, gems, you've got RPG armor sets. And again, each one of these packs is about, this one's 200, almost 250 just for this one alone, but each one are valued at $9.99, $10 if you get them. Prehistoric ages, I mean, this is insane. It's coming again with over 7,000 icons comes in this, and this one is pay the average of $17.15, and then you can pay $20 and you get, on top of everything else that I've gone through, you get some more scrolls and books. You get bags and boxes, magical items, weapons and armor, more potions, resources, forest, hunting, fishing, necromancer, sci-fi, mining, engineering, barbarian, trophies, food, more spell book stuff, and some skill icons, some strategy game icons, and some sci-fi flat icons. I mean, I mean, these are pretty cool. Just basic, clean lines, nothing. That's 7,000 different icons that you can get for a decent amount. If you're into trying to develop something, some sort of game, some sort of website, get a bunch of these icons, be pretty cool. So again, I'll have these linked in the description. But this next one, we're going to jump into a benchmark. So let me go show you what we've got here. This is going to be a Radeon RX 580 versus a GeForce GTX 1060. Which was the better investment? Again, these are older cards, but that's for around the $200 price range. And this article was actually written in 2020, and I think these cards came out around 2016. So, but today, the articles today, we're revisiting the age-old question of the 580 versus the GTX. Although this began with the 480 when that released in 2016, which is 4 years ago. So it's going on a long time now. But originally that was the 480 that was supposed to be based on the 1060, and they both made some improvements. At the time, it was an 8 gig 480 priced at $250 or $240. The 1060 was sold for $250, and it was a 6 gig. 3 months after the release, it compared over 22 games and head to head, and the 1060 was 6% faster, which is a huge difference. Like, you think, oh, it's only 6%, but that's a huge difference when it's computing and in benchmarking. So they've changed it, and they've noted that they did some more recent titles that used DX12 and Vulkan APIs, and the 480 is almost always faster. Half a dozen of the titles supported modern APIs, and when computing data from these select titles, the 1060 6 gigabit one was actually about 5% slower on average. And it seemed like over time the 480 would end up being the faster product, while the 1060 though was more efficient. Therefore, AIB models generally ran cooler and quieter. So now they said they've revisited that comparison over the years. In 2016, AMD released new drivers and claiming big performance upgrades. So they tested 19 more titles and found that the GTX 1060 was now only about 1% faster. Now, if you're comparing about 1% faster, that's not a huge difference, depending on the price. So again, it goes to preference and your budget, what you prefer. So at the end of this article, we'll go through everything, and then I can tell you, my preference, which is, that's just me. That doesn't mean right or wrong, but let's get through this article. So then, about a year after launching that 480 in 2016, in 2017, they refreshed it with a 580 with a mild overclock and a price cut. So that now goes to combat against the 9 gigabit per second memory version that the 1060, which improved bandwidth by over 13% over the standard 8 gigabits per second model. That soundly, but they increased the frequency and had changed little impact on performance. That's good to know. So by mid 2017, they did a 27 game benchmark, and the 580, which came out that year, I believe, right? Yeah, was already about 3% faster. Now you're starting to get into the 3% faster. That's definitely going to be noticeable. You're going to notice that playing games for sure. So they say the tables have turned. Later, in 2018, they revisited the battle again with 25 games, and many of them new and previously untested for this comparison. This time, the GTX found it to be on top by about 3% on average. So this kind of goes through the history of since they came out over the time. Different games come out, different cards, different machines and different setups handle things differently. And it goes a lot to like game devs and stuff too, and what they're using, which is exactly what they said, the DX12, the DirectX 12. So then they did one in 2019, and it was the biggest sample of games yet, 36 titles, and this time the 580 was about 3% faster. And it says, perhaps most surprising is the 580 is still on sale and remains to be the best value under $200 on the markets. So that's easily beating out the new 5500 XT and matching the GTX 1650 Super. It's possible to buy the 8 gig RX 580 for as little as $160, and that makes this ancient GPU better value than most of the latest offerings. So there again, if you're looking for a good deal, if that's what you're looking at, like you want to spend less than $200 or you want to spend about $150, what they're saying is this card specifically for that is by far the absolute best deal on the market. So now today's comparison can go through 32 games and go over the results for a dozen of the newer titles, and we'll check out some head-to-head comparisons with games. So here's their test rig. They are using an i9 9900K clocked at 5 gigahertz with 32 gigabytes of DDR4 3400 RAM. And that is the thing representing the green team is a Gigabyte RS GTX 1060 6 gig 9 gigabyte per second, and the red team is a Gigabyte RX 580 XTR 8 gig. The latest available drivers at the time of testing, and everything has been updated. So here we go. So they do Siege, Rainbow Six Siege, and the so they do different they do different resolutions, and they're checking it out as well. So they do using DirectX 11. The 580 was around 15% faster than the 1060. Now they're looking around twice the margin as the 580 is 27% faster at 1080p and 30% faster at 1440. So here's a look at that. So this is Siege, and this was at the time of testing February, I think. Maybe earlier, maybe January this year. So 2020, early 2020, and this is obviously frame rates, and then the dark blue is the minimum frame rate, so then the top blue is the average. So obviously you want the higher number for both of those. All at ultra quality, and 100% render scale. So the 580, we'll just look at the frame rates. The average, the 580 is 114, and the 1060 is 90. And then that's at 1080, which is, for that game, you shouldn't really be gaming on 1440, and definitely not with these cards, as neither one of them can break 80. But yeah, that's that's for the other podcast. I think I did that one of the first podcasts, talk about different resolutions. But again, it shows a lot more. You can see the 580s at 73 at 1440, and the 1060s at 56. So now to World War Z, and its ultra quality. The 580 at 1080 is 106 and the 1060 is at 86. 1440, the 580 is 71, and the 1060 is 56. So right now, all of the benchmarking seems to be going for this. Now this is Resident Evil 2. Again, the 580 wins by about 27% faster. 23% faster at 1080, 27% faster at 1440. Red Dead Redemption 2. At 1080, this is closer. The 580 had 47 frames, and the 1060 had 40. So that one's much closer, by a margin of only 18% as opposed to like 27%. And then at 1440, man, these aren't even breaking. These, like, so here's a new game, and neither one of these cards can handle a new game very well. And it is high quality, but you should be able to play high quality and get 60 frames. If you're not, you need it. You need an update. But 1080 or 1440 is 36 and 29 for the 1060. So it requires at least 8 gigs of VRAM on the high settings. So you see rather poor quality. You can see the minimum FPS drops down on like below 40, and then at 1440, which you shouldn't be gaming at with these, you're not even hitting 20. So it's not very good. So we'll look at Apex Legends, which is a pretty popular game. And now here you'll see a difference here. At 1080, the 580 average is 68, and the 1060 average is actually 76. So this game, Apex, the 1060 actually wins that. And at 1440, the 580 is at 53, and the 1060 is at 55. But again, you're stressing out a lot there, putting that on there. And we read the test rig at the beginning, making the video card literally the bottleneck. So you can't blame it on any other parts. Everything else that was in this machine is going to run anything flawlessly. So now we can go like to an older game-ish with these older cards. So this is PUBG, Player Unknown's Battleground at 1080. The 580 is 72, and the 1060 is 82. And then at 1440, the 580 is at 50, and the 1060 is won that one as well at 55. So these are pretty noticeable. The opposite. And you can see it kind of swung with these games. These games are a bit different than like the Direct 12 games that we saw earlier. Next one, Fortnight. The 580 wins that at both resolutions. Assassin's Creed Odyssey, they are pretty much the same. I'd call that a draw. They're talking about 1 FPS either way. Averages are the same. Here, averages are just 1. So this one is it's neck and neck. No winner here. This one's the same. So you want to play Odyssey, doesn't matter which one you get. Metro Exodus, the 580 wins that pretty soundly, actually, very soundly. That's huge. 23 and 21% faster. Jedi Fallen Order, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. We're gonna call this one a wash too. So they both do the exact same. F1 2019, DirectX 12 is so much leaning in the Radeon RX 580. So much. That's huge. I mean, that's way over 10 frames. That's 23% faster. So here's a big one right now is Call of Duty Modern Warfare. Wow, these can get that high. That's pretty amazing. Call of Duty Modern Warfare is going to go more towards the 580. The RX 580 is going to win that by about 10 or 6% and 9% at 1440. So that's pretty close. That's one of the closer. Typically, it's been either wash or far ahead in one way or the other. So here we go. We do the percentage difference. So in general, on average, over these games, I guess this would be all of them, right? So you put them all together, which you can't really do because, I don't know. I mean, whatever. But at 1080, the 580 was about 5% faster. So looking at all these games now, when they did this, it's showing that in general, it's about 5% faster. And then at 1440, it's about 8% faster. But again, you're taking the average of every game. So like one game could have blown it out of the water. I don't know. I mean, I don't think in general like 5% faster. Like if that really works, every game's different. So there you go. That's going over that. So again, it's preference. It's what you like too. So my preference is personally, if I'm buying or building a machine, I'm going to get something that I like or something that I want. I personally like the GeForce experience and the GeForce cards. So that's what I get. That's what I put in my machine, and that's what I'll probably continue putting in. But again, graphics cards right now and lately have been so expensive from mining cryptocurrency. So if you're looking to cut your costs, I completely understand like not wanting to spend $700 on a card that came out 2 years ago. So, you know, I do understand that, and if that's the case, if the money is the case, then I seriously would go with an AMD more than likely. Just because you can get a cheaper card that is going to be elevated on price too because of mining, but you can get a cheaper card that does, you know, maybe not as good, or in this case even better. But yeah, I do like GeForce, and if it came down to me spending so much more on a GeForce than getting an AMD, I would have. But I got mine when I built mine like a year and a half ago. I think it's been a year and a half. I think it's now about $150 or $200 more than the price I paid for it. So I found like some crazy weekend deal and snatched it up quick. And it's been worth it. So another thing to do is we can look at this article real quick. Might as well make this a little longer since we haven't done them so often. But the next article I wanted to look at was what to look for in a cheap gaming laptop. Now I just bought one just so I can have one when I work on the road, or maybe I can be on it when I'm, maybe in bed at night with my wife while she's watching whatever TV show she likes, and that way I'm not like all the way all up here in my studio, or far away and completely removed from the rest of my household. I can be on my laptop and maybe play a little bit of games or something. So but when you're looking for a cheap laptop to get, for gaming, what do you want to know? And here we go. It says invest in the GPU, the CPU, display, and storage. And the trick is knowing exactly what you want to get out of your machine. So I knew what I wanted to get was, honestly, didn't care, wasn't going to try to play competitive gaming on it, just whatever little games I have or fun games at the time. Mostly when I bought it, it was Sea of Thieves. I haven't been playing that much lately, but I wanted to be able to play Sea of Thieves where I wanted to. And now I've got other games that I prefer to just be able to hop on and play. So yeah, let's go back down to this article. So you look at the high-end gaming like laptops like the Alienware, the Area 51, or the Acer Predator Helio 700. They have amazing performance, and they're a lot of dollars, a lot of dollars. But they're expensive. I mean, and at that point of spending that, unless you travel and you need it for gaming, like, I don't know, unless it's your job, it's hard to justify the price for that, because you could build a tower for at least half the price of what you're spending on some of these. So, yeah, and you want to spend. So my goal was to spend less. I didn't want to spend much money at all. But if I'm gonna get a laptop, I wanna be just a cheap gaming laptop, and $1,000 is that, or less than. You try to go less than $1,000 would be that. And this article is suggesting less than 1,000. That still gives you the gaming performance, which is not easy to do. So entry level, more entry level gaming laptops does mean you won't get the best, obviously. Just in the components, you're not going to get solid state drives. You're not going to get good external drives. Keyboard and mouse might not be good. It may not have like good speakers. I mean, it's just, you're not going to get the best at all. So you get, so they've listed important things to consider when you're shopping for cheap gaming laptops under $1,000. And again, under $1,000 for a laptop is cheap. Like, cheap. You know, you're not getting anything really if you're trying to game. So, oh look, it's Josh's advice. Now, this is not me. I did not write this article. This article was written February 28th, 2020. So Josh's advice is, if you're going to stick to a budget under 800, go with a GTX, an NVIDIA GTX 1050 Ti or newer, which is the 1650 graphic card, which will give you good gaming performance, medium to high settings, which is what I did when I was looking. Or you can even go a little bit more and get the 1060 or the 1660 Ti. Beyond graphics, what you're going to want is definitely an 8th or 9th generation Intel i5 or i7 with at least 8 gigs of memory. I would say you're going to want at least 8 gigs of memory on anything you do. I mean, I don't even know what phones have nowadays, but you want at least 8 gigs of memory for sure. And you want at least 256 gigabytes of a solid state drive, or a combination of 128 gig solid state and then a hard drive, or hybrid, solid state hybrid. I typically like solid states, and if you're on Amazon or something, or hell, if you're even on Facebook Marketplace, you could probably find a used solid state terabyte. Obviously, if your laptop, here's the thing with laptops, a lot of them aren't customizable. So I spent time and research onto the one I chose. I can customize. I've already upgraded the RAM. I could buy like a new whole thing for the CPU and the displays. If I wanted to get like a different model that I didn't buy with this machine, I can get one on eBay sent to me, and I can swap that out. I've already upgraded the RAM. You know, I had an extra solid state drive, which is the 2.5 inch solid state drive. So, and I swapped that out because it came with, I don't even think I have it. I know it's supposed to be here, but it came with a regular hard drive. And those things are slow. I mean, regular hard drives nowadays suck. Don't get them. Some hybrids, the solid state hybrids, those are good, but regular ones, don't get them. They're not even worth it. They really aren't. You want a solid state drive for sure. You want your laptop to boot up it'll boot up faster than your cell phone does. My laptop is fast. My tower here is fast. But no less than 8 gigs of memory for sure, and then definitely a solid state drive. Most here we go. So most, if not all, gaming laptops let you expand, upgrade the memory and storage. So that's something to consider, though. If you're looking for a gaming laptop, make sure you can upgrade it. And then that way you put more money into the GPU and the CPU. And then you can skimp out on storage and you can upgrade that later. You can upgrade things later. So if you get a good machine that you know you can upgrade it later. Spend more on the processor and the GPU. Obviously, things that won't be upgraded is like the display, the trackpad, keyboard. Those are there. So you do have to be okay with those as well. Typically when you play games, you don't play with your trackpad, you play with a mouse. So you're going to have a mouse that you plug in with it anyways. So that's an external peripheral that you should just have. Battery life, you can't really change battery life, so you maybe want to make sure it has good battery life. A lot of times when I'm gaming, I honestly, if your battery is removable, just unplug it and plug it in, or just, I don't know. I typically have mine plugged in when I'm gaming. If it's a giant long gaming session, which doesn't really happen on my laptop, because like I said, it's just for mobile gaming. Maybe I'll unplug the laptop here and there, but in general, I just leave mine plugged in. Now we'll go down to Dan's advice. He likes keyboards with backlighting so he can see the WASD when gaming in the dark. Okay, fair enough. Now, some people value that. I know the other night Gary was gaming and he said he wished he had a backlit keyboard so he could see that. I don't look down at the keyboard when I game, so that's not something that's a must for me. I do game in the dark. If you do game in the dark and you want a backlit keyboard, I do like a backlit keyboard. That was not a deal breaker for me. All of my keyboards are backlit. Every keyboard I have, right here, I'm using a Corsair K70. That's what I have here. My mouse is the G502, the Hero, the Logitech Hero. So backlit to backlit. I've got the LEDs in my tower, which you probably can't see. Kind of. I've got a backlit keyboard for my second tower, which is a server back there as well. And my laptop. All of it's backlit and LED. So I prefer that. It's not deal breakers for me. The peripherals on this main gaming machine that I'm on right now is, I spent time finding good deals on the keyboard and mouse that I've got here. But that's his preference. So definitely everybody's different and there is no right or wrong answer. Keep that in mind too. This is all subjective. There's nothing here objective. If you I could say objectively you want a solid state drive and at least 8 gigs of memory. If you're gaming, you're not going to find a game that doesn't require or that will run on 4 gigs of memory, 6 gigs of memory. It's going to be hard. Nowadays, you used to be able to, but nowadays it's going to be really hard. So you can maybe make that argument objective. And then the solid state drive, you could make that as objective. Like you don't want to be in the game grinding and just loading. But again, that's subjective. That's my preference. I like stuff to load quick. That's what a solid state drive does. You have a regular hard drive, it'll take you 5 minutes for your computer to load up. It'll load like some, I don't know, like Xbox games or something, like your Xbox One, like the older version of an Xbox One 4 years ago. It takes forever to load a game. My computer, I'll load into Sea of Thieves before I can load in, exit, reload the entire game back up, and get back onto the ship on Sea of Thieves before somebody loads in from the first time getting on the ship on an Xbox. So, I mean, that, again, it's preference. It's not objective. The only objective thing is you want higher RAM for games. So that's what he prefers first. Second, he likes graphics. He would rather have a higher graphics card or chip in this case, because they are not cards, they're chips in your laptops, over a processor, at least to a point. So if he's going to see if he can get an i5 with a higher graphics card or an i7 with a lower graphics card, he's going to lean more towards the or the higher GPU, which I probably would agree with that. because you can get a good i5 and it'll do what most games what you want. You can lower some of the settings if you need to. I would agree with that. I'd rather have better GPU than better CPU, which I think is the way I went with mine. Again, we kind of did resolution. I always do 1080, so anything that's 1080 is perfect. All of my monitors are 1080. I've got 3 of them here. They're all 1080. I only game in 1080. So Lori's advice is a strong GPU. Oh wait. So it depends on what you like. If you want to do like Fortnite or lower tier games, you know, you don't necessarily need a strong GPU. But if you want to look for these AAA titles, you need a strong GPU and at least a quad core CPU at minimum to play these games. And minimum is not the best to play. Recommended when you look at titles are best to play. So you want to try to meet recommended. So she feels that she likes the AMD CPUs. 2 things won't be able to change is the processor and the graphics chip. You don't really need more than a quad core processor unless you're worried about future proofing it. So that's fair. That's another thing too. You know, things don't last very long nowadays with the rapid increase in technology. If you think you buy something amazing, it's only going to last a couple years. Or unless you buy something almost overdone, it's only going to last a couple years and you're going to need upgrades. I've already upgraded stuff in my machine and it's only a year and a half old. So she's leaning more towards the Intel equivalent to the Ryzen 4000 series. So there you have it. That's just my 2 cents. Objectively, you need 8 gigs of RAM for gaming, at least. I think I just upgraded from 8 to 16. I had 8 originally, and then I put in a terabyte SSD, and that's all the upgrading my machine will need, and it does everything else just fine. What I need it to do, play the games I need it to. I can play Modern Warfare on it. It's not great, and if I'm not gonna be like super responsive because it's only a 60 hertz screen, unlike my 165 hertz screen in front of me right now. But yeah, does good. So that's gonna be it. We're gonna wrap it up there. Fun stuff to go over. I like going over stuff like this. It's always fun. You like this episode, throw me a thumbs up. You're new and you want to see more, drop a comment, subscribe, and we'll keep pumping these out. I enjoy doing them. So until next time, take it easy.